I spoke to the students about what is change, what is the impact of the old on the mind, and from where does the new come. Let us continue the same theme. Let us talk about the importance of newness in the field of teaching. What is newness? From where does it come? How to bring it about? First of all, it must be understood that old patterns give a promise. In any field, old patterns are attractive because they make a promise of security. If something is tried and tested and repeated, then you know its outcome in advance. That makes you feel secure. That makes you feel that the risk is less.
Sorry.
That is the reason why the mind of a teacher, the mind of a professional, the mind of a father, the mind of any human being wants to repeat. What have we said till now? We have said that in repetition lies security. You do not feel threatened. You do not feel the danger of uncertainty. There is no unknown or little unknown. So you say, well, I know this way of working, I know this way of teaching, I know this person, I know this house, I know this path. I've been through this before. And because I've been through this before, I know in advance how things will turn out. I know in advance where it would go and end. Right? And that knowledge gives us confidence. We say we know this. And that means that I can be confident about the result. The result becomes more predictable. Right? So we acknowledge that the mind wants security and repetition provides security in every field, including the field of teaching. But at the same time, we also see that the mind wants something beyond security. That the mind, after a point, starts rebelling against repetition. So it does not really like the old, the stale, the tried and tested. Are you getting it? And when you do not like something, then you cannot get close to it, then you cannot get immersed in it. if the student is encountering repetitions again and again, then he will start creating a distance. At the same time, the first thing that we have said is that repetition brings security and predictability. So that carrot is there, that temptation is there. And if you are a mind that is conditioned to move on greed, then you will not openly rebel, because you are getting some kind of a reward, and that reward is security, predictability, reduction of risk. But the whole affair will become tasteless and lifeless, because deep within you do not like just a recirculation of the past, of the old. I invite you to think how much of our teaching is just a repetition. And if it is, then will the student really be drawn towards it? And when I say that we must go into it, we must go into it with the full knowledge that repetition exists because it is attractive. Repetition exists because it does bring something to the table. So we are not denying that. We acknowledge why the mind wants to go into its old patterns. Because patterns offer freedom from danger. At least they promise that. That it's another issue whether they provide that. Right? So we talk, and then there is a general consensus that the mind wants the new. The mind wants the new, and the mind has heard this now, that if my student or any other person is being subjected to repetitions, to patterns, then he will dislike it. We have heard this. After hearing this, how do we respond? There can be two ways. One way is, I used to have an old plan. Having known that the old plan is not working very well, I come up with a new plan. That is one response. Right? We all already have an old plan with us, right? There is nobody here who is without plans. We all already have models in our mind. We all already have a pre-decided way of functioning in our mind. We already have a model of reality in our mind. That is the old plan. And somebody comes and talks to you, and certain facts are exposed to you, and you see that the old plan is not working. At least not working effectively. So you say now there can be two ways of responding. First is to replace the old plan with a new plan. What could be the second way? Are we together where we are? We have said whenever the functioning of any individual or any professional is based on patterns, ways, methods, repetitions, then it becomes stale and boring after a while. Right? That is the thing that we have said. We also said that planning brings its own benefits of security. Now we are saying that as teachers, as professionals and human beings, we have seen that the old has become outdated and stale. It has become too frequently used. So something needs to be done about it. At this point, there can be two different types of minds. There is one mind that says, now that the old patterns are not working, so I will replace them with a new pattern, with a new plan. But I also want to explore whether there can be a second type of mind. What could be that second type of mind? Is the situation simple and clear? I have been teaching in a particular way since 5 years. And there is a student. The student has been studying since 20 years now. And the method of studying, the whole framework of education has been the same. Syllabi have been changing, but the framework has remained fixed and rigid. So on both sides, now there is a feeling of distaste, of blandness, of boredom. I acknowledge that as a teacher and I say, I need to do something about it. One option is to replace my current method of working with another method. An old plan replaces a new plan. And we often do that. Could there be another response to this situation? Yes? Could there be another response? All right. Let's go into the first response. Maybe from there we'll be able to see more clearly whether there can be a second response. When I say that the old plan, and that plan includes my method of taking exam, my notes, my pattern of teaching, my notions about my relationship with the class, the students, my notions about my relationship with the institution, the college or university, my concept of what it means to be a teacher. All this is the plan. When I see that the old plan is not really giving me peace, I don't really feel satisfied with it, I substitute it with a new plan, then one thing is certain, that while I have changed the old and substituted it with the new, yet there is something that I have not changed. What is it that I have not changed? What is it that I have not changed? No, the way of teaching, I am saying I will change my way of teaching. I am saying I used to have my notes circulated in print form. Now I am seeing that the time has changed. So I'll put up my notes on the intranet, and everything will be available to students even before the classes begin. Right? So you are bringing about all these kinds of changes. You are using more of technology, maybe you are improving your communication skills. Whatever can be planned to be changed, you are changing it. But in changing all this, there is something that you are not at all touching or changing. What is that?
Goals, aim, goal.
Goal in what sense? You are prepared to change that aim also.
Let me say
See, maybe let's take a situation. The university in which you are teaching has become better. Let's say initially it was just sufficient to have an average pass percentage of, the average percentage of all students passing was 60. That used to be the goal. And now the goal has advanced to 70. So even goals can change. Yet in all this, there is something that is just not changing. What is that?
am I able to change the approach of students toward learning new things? Because I have changed, but am I able to introduce that kind of change among students?
1 year back, I wanted my students to behave in one particular way. Now I want my students to have another way, another approach. Apparently something has changed. Apparently I no more want the same things that I used to want. Still something is not yielding, something is not changing. What is it that is not changing? The old plan has become the new plan, and the new plan might appear to be greatly different from the old plan. And I might be feeling happy that I am moving with the times. Yet there is something that is just not changing. What is it?
The person who is planning it.
My work.
Yes, we are reaching there. Yes.
My urge to impart knowledge.
Yes, we are moving towards that. Come closer.
मैं नहीं बदली काम बदला टेक्नोलॉजी बदली सब कुछ बदला लेकिन मैं नहीं.
What is meant by this I? What is meant by this? Go into the mind of the teacher who is changing one method of distributing notes to another method of providing notes. What is it that is not changing? Let's say the notes are also changing. Let's say the notes are coming from a better source, from a more updated source. Yet there is something that is not changing. Well said. More on that?
We plan both the sides. Either it is new ideas.
Yes. Let's pay attention to this, please. Yes.
अगर कोई नया आइडिया है, मैंने उसके लिए भी प्लान किया, और जो मेरा पुराना कोई वर्जन है, मैंने उसके लिए भी प्लान किया.
Right.
दोनों में हर चीज कॉमन नहीं हो सकती, बट एक चीज तो कॉमन है कि मैंने प्लान किया.
Right.
That is the plan.
Right. That will also explain this I that you had talking about. How is that related to that I, which that unchanging I?
The planning feature.
Well said. You see, this I was greatly interested in planning 2 years back. This I is still greatly interested in planning today. And as we started talking right in the beginning, we had talked of Why the mind wants to plan? Why does it want to plan? For security. So this I was seeking security 2 years back, and it is still seeking security today, right? The method of seeking security has changed, but the fundamental structure, the hardware, the foundation, that is just not changing. Now, the first plan became old quite soon. What will happen to the second plan?
It will also become old.
It will also become old. And then what will we say? I want a third plan. And then? And every time you are moving to the next one, you are not moving in success. You are only moving forward in dejection. Do you see this? You are saying, I must have the new one because the old one is. So you are not moving forward in any kind of success really.
But what I think is that I knew the 100 other ways of not doing that thing in a particular manner, but maybe on 101 time I would get a right way of doing that.
Does that happen? Does it ever happen that you finally come to that one plan, that one thing that does not ever need to be changed, the 101st one? Does it ever happen? Let's take a simple example. Does it ever happen in life that you come to anything that is so deeply satisfying and final that you have absolutely zero urge of changing it? Does it ever happen? No, it doesn't happen. So it won't happen with any kind of plan either. You may call it progress or improvement or anything, but the fact remains that you will move to the next one because the previous one would fail you. Right? So, the planner, not only is he not changing, but also he is remaining steadfast in his failure. Please understand this. We are saying, I am a sincere teacher. I care for the students and I also care for my career, so I want to improve and update. I want to try out new things. Right? And in trying out new things, I keep moving from one approach to the other. And there are various ways to move from one approach to other. Times are changing and there is so much information available and there is so much coaching and tutoring available. Right? You can attend faculty development programs and you can read on the internet and there are self-help books and you can listen from the more experienced ones. There are 1,000 ways. And they do seem to work. It is not as if everything is useless. They all have their own respective merits. So we fully well acknowledge that one method to respond when the old fails is to come up with a replacement of the old. But I am still stuck with my question, is there another response possible? The hints are all there now, courtesy of our friends who have pointed out very clearly to us that even in changing, we are not changing the planning mind. We are not changing the I that is so afraid that it constantly wants security. So what then could be a real change? Yes?
We change the planner.
Oh, great. So what does it mean by changing the planner?
Let others come forward with their ideas.
When we say the planner, what is the definition of the planner? Who is the planner? Yeah, right. But whom do you call the planner? The answer is so simple that you are missing it.
Mind.
Whom do you call a planner? Whom do you call a cricketer? Who's planning, right? So the one who plans is called the planner. As simple as that. So what is meant by then changing the planner?
We do not plan. That means we should not plan.
Ah, right. Good. Wonderful. So one way of responding to this ever-changing universe around us, to the changing crowds of students, to the changing situations, is to keep applying your mind and coming up with new and newer plans. But the one who is more attentive would say there is a higher, a deeper change possible, which is to not only give up the old plan but also not to come up with a new plan. You see, if I am totally lazy, then what do? I continue with the old plan. If my mind is moderately awake, then I replace the old plan with a new plan. But if I am really awake, then I give up the old plan and come up with a new plan.
No. Because we should not plan them.
And not come up with anything. So you have given up the old and not substituted it, not replaced it with anything. All right, we'll repeat these three. If I am insensitive and lazy, and totally unconcerned with myself, no self-love at all, then I will see that my patterns, my old ways are failing, yet I will not change them. Have you seen people like these? It is very obvious, very evident that their ways and patterns are only a source of suffering to everybody, yet they are not prepared to change. So old remains old. Now there is another mind which is a little awakened, which we could call the normal mind, the average mind, the mediocre mind. It sees that it is suffering, it sees that things are failing, so it replaces the old with the new. So first stage, old remains old. Second stage, old becomes new. The third one sees that even when the old is becoming the new, the tendency of the mind to have some kind of an object to hold, some kind of a plan to hold, the planner, that is still there. So for this kind of mind, the old then becomes...
The old goes away and he is not going for new plan.
Yes, so the old becomes nothing, gone. Old is gone and nothing has arrived. Now the moment first two types of minds hear this, what is their reaction? This third option, this,
They find an opportunity to fit into the shoe of the person who has not been replaced.
You see, I am used to let's say wearing a watch. I'm used to wearing a watch. The watch is not functioning properly. So one option is I continue with the dysfunctional watch. The other option is I go for a replacement. But if someone comes and says that, sir, can we inquire whether you really need a watch? And I'm used to this watch since 20 years. Rather, since 40 years I have been carrying a watch on my wrist. And I'm given with this opportunity, this option, that do I really need a watch? Then what is my reaction? Immediate reaction. I look at my wrist, and whenever I have looked at my wrist, what have I found? A watch. And I am being told that it is possible to have a wrist free of the watch. Now, does that make me happy? Does that make me happy? I am 50 years old now. I've always seen a watch here. Now, does that make me happy? Does that sound like freedom to me? Does that really? Have you seen that happen? Oh, it may just, but have you seen that happen? Is that your common everyday experience?
No.
So it is scary. So this third possibility, where the old goes without bringing in a replacement, is a terrifying possibility to the normal mind. The mind becomes scared. Wherever there is the highest achievement, you will find the mind reacting with fear. Because the highest will always involve the dissolution of mind itself. What is mind? The planner, the actor, what you always have been, the entire accumulation of the past. So even though we claim that we want great achievements, that we want to climb high and fly in the sky, yet that which will really bring us to great heights is always going to be resisted by us. Do you acknowledge this? So, if fear arises within on seeing something, on hearing something, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. Because it means that at least the third possibility has come right in front of us. That is why we are afraid. At least it has come. Even if it is making me afraid, at least it has come so close that I can be scared of it. Now I'll see what I want to do with my fear. But thank God, something is there that can make me afraid. And if I'm afraid and I'm fearing, it is good news. It is not really bad news. Are we seeing this? Do we see the implications of this in our approach to what we are doing every day? Is it possible to be totally free of a mental baggage while looking at a course? Is it possible to enter a class and not be rigid about what you want to deliver to the student? Is it possible to design a question paper and not be particular about the answers that you want? If it is not possible, we'll be stuck at level 1 and 2. You see, we know a certain way, and that way is a proven way. So there is a general tendency to simply replicate that way. Can I be free from that way? Can I come to you without a script? May I speak to you as we go along together? And if I can do that, is that not beautiful? Or would you rather prefer that I carry a ready-made PPT with me? Now, do you see what I'm saying? Won't it be beautiful? We are giving so much of our time, which is our life, to teaching, are we not? And if we are giving it so much of time, if we are identifying with it and calling it our profession, is it not wonderful to be at least internally scaling the highest peaks that are possible. Yes? See, external rewards are dependent on circumstances. But at least internally, can I be the highest that I can be? But that will require me to be free of myself, to let go of the planner, to let go of the old one who always wants to secure himself. Now you know how the mind will respond. The mind will want to know what it feels, how it feels to drop the old and not be in the new. We'll want to imagine, we'll want to predict. And that cannot be done. But we'll want to predict. Why? Because that makes us feel safe. That all right, even if I try out that option, let me see whether there is too much danger. And if there isn't too much danger, I may just give it a try. But only if it is at least moderately safe. And how do I know whether it is moderately safe? It is totally new. I cannot imagine. Imagination requires some acquaintance. I don't have that. So do not allow the mind to do that. What should we rather do? My advice is, let's look at what we are currently doing. Are we not already carrying a lot of methods, baggages, modes of functioning which I call as my peculiarities, my personality, my specialities? Don't we say all that? That this is me. This is my method. This is my way. Can we look at them? Can we sharply, dispassionately look at them and see whether we have become captives of our own patterns? Just seeing that will be enough. Just seeing that will be something very new, because we never see that usually. Sometimes others see that, but we hardly ever see that. Instead of seeing that, we call it our distinctive styles. We say, this is my speciality, my peculiarity, trademark. So as you are here and as you go from here, and whenever you have the opportunity, my invitation is, pay attention to what kind of order you bring to your lives. Pay attention to how you have arranged your internal systems. Pay attention to your method of thought. See what all that planner keeps on doing. In seeing that, you will also see that it is indeed better to live without that planner. It appears a little risky, but in that risk lies great fun. We all are entitled to have that fun. Yes? We'll proceed through your inputs and queries. मैं निकलता हूँ सर, प्लीज.
answer one question. Sir, can I ask for sitting?
Yeah, please.
Sir, in the morning, in afternoon time, you told us that we have to get on a new path and we just don't have to follow the ones who are going on the wrong path. So, sir, for just going on a new path, we have to change the old one. So, how can we bring that sudden change?
That change comes when you see that what you are doing is not at all giving you that which you really want. You want a certain satisfaction and you're not getting it. You want to feel good and free and joyful and you're not getting it. Then you automatically drop the old. Giving up the old, dropping the old does not require too much of a persuasion. It only requires realization. When you realize that which you are sticking to, that which you are identified with, that which you are habituated to, that is only bringing you misery, then you simply drop it. Simply drop it. You see, you are holding a hot rod, a hot iron rod in your hand. Do you require a plan to drop it? How do you drop it? The very clear realization that it is a source of suffering for you. And you don't have to think or plan. Drop it. That is how dropping happens. And unless you have become sensitive towards yourself, unless you have become more caring towards yourself, this realization won't happen.
But sir, हम decide कैसे करें कि कौन सा way है वो wrong है?
Do you have to decide whether the rod is hurting you? It is hurting. No decision is needed. It is hurting.
But sometimes जो hurting होता है वो हमारे लिए कहीं ना कहीं profit देता है. But that's only example कि एक beating rod है. But बहुत सारे हमारे life में ऐसे बहुत सारे पहलू हैं जहाँ पर हम खुद नहीं समझ पाते कि रास्ता
Correct. You are right. You are greatly right. So you are holding the rod in your hand and somebody has promised that he will give you $1,000 or $1 million for it. What he has promised is a promise. What he has promised is the money lying on the table in front of you. But where is the rod? Where is the rod? The rod is right in your hand. The money is a concept. You cannot eat that money right now. That money is a thought. That money is a benefit only if you think about it. Are you getting it? That money is useful only if you think about the usefulness and the benefit it brings. But the rod, you don't even need to think. The suffering is real and immediate. And then dropping happens. In fact, you have very, very rightly pointed out that most people keep on tolerating the suffering only because there is a perceived benefit or profit. Here you have to lay stress on the word perceived. The suffering is there, real, immediate. The profit is always a promise of the future. Is it not? Is it not? The profit is a little away, always a little away. Maybe just as little at a distance from you as is a stable. And so there is a pile of currency notes here. But still it is at a distance. And the rod is right in your hand. You have to acknowledge this. I'm repeating this. I have used the word self-love. I have used the word concern towards yourself. I have used the word sensitivity towards yourself. One requires to have that. One requires to be free from the conditioning that life is suffering. if you keep on believing that suffering is a legitimate and necessary part of life, then you will not drop the rod. You will say, one is meant to suffer. If you are born, then it is your destiny that you will suffer. Then you will not drop the rod. You need to have a firm conviction, a faith that life and nature is joy, not suffering, not torture.
Sir, that was not my answer. Actually, I want to ask that, suppose, by giving example, our country, India, is the largest beef exporter, right? So, if we want that, India should not be that much large in that beef exporter, because in our country, cow is been considered as a religious animal. So, if I want to bring that change, then how I alone can do that? Because if Modi sir is also supporting the system of exporting beef, and he has even given the price also. So how alone I can just do that? My question is that.
Yeah, one of the tricks of the mind to not really change itself is to try to change the world. When I said that change comes with a challenge, a risk, then I talked of changing the I, or did I talk of changing the world?
I.
So that is where the real change is, changing the I. But because you do not want to change the I, because you do not have the courage or the honesty to look at yourself, you find a convenient escape. What is that convenient escape? I am changing the world. Change yourself. Are you all right? Are you all right? Are you all right? Bring yourself to what you must be, and then through you, automatically the right action will happen. The world is suffering a lot because of people who themselves are in need of change but are hell-bent upon changing the world. We are like patients carrying infectious diseases who want to treat other people. We are social service inclined. And what am I carrying? I am carrying an infectious disease. So what happens when I go to help other people? I only become another source of suffering for them. Have you not seen what all happens in the name of help? People say, I am helping you, or I am full of love, care and concern for you. But all this love, care and concern is so deadly. Is it not? Is it not? Possessiveness hides as love. Jealousy hides as care. Have you not seen this happen? So first, bring about a change in yourself. Then you will know what to do with the world. Or maybe then you will not need to do anything with the world. Who knows?